Hello, everybody, and welcome to Hash Rate. My guest today is Max Sebti of Score, Subnet 44. Hello, Max. How you doing?
Hey Mark, yeah, doing great. How about you?
I'm doing great. Good to see you back. It's been too long.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Okay, so let's dive right into it. So Subnet 44 Score. Let's assume people, for people who don't know what it is, why don't you give us a quick overview of what you do?
Yeah, sure. So Score is a vision AI research company. So what you do with ChatGPT mainly is to leverage text-based intelligence, and Score is focused on the other part of AI, which is vision intelligence. So we're trying to help devs, companies to have access to good visual intelligence. Basically, I'm trying to keep it like very high level.
Yeah. So would you say is it sort of akin to what, with Tesla, like most people encounter computer vision in self-driving cars? I think
Yeah,
Tesla FDV is sort of the way in which most people encounter it. Is what you do sort of similar to that, but across different
yeah,
domains? Yes.
yeah. That's a good example. I think Tesla obviously are leading this conversation. They've made like a big decision by going with computer vision and not the other technology they could have used. And just for people to understand, computer vision works with pixels. So everywhere there's a camera, you can try to make it, intelligent, and that's pretty much our company's mission to make every camera intelligent.
Huh. Okay. So now you call your subnet Score because I know that
Yeah,
even though you're focusing on the problem of machine vision generally, your first application, you're sort of narrowing your focus, at least for some period of time, on sporting events.
yeah,
And I guess even you're partnered now, I believe, with a specific sporting
yeah,
entity to provide them service. So why don't we talk a little
yeah.
bit about the specific use case that you're focusing
Sure.
on?
Yeah, so we started as a obviously we were focused on sports specifically, and even more specifically, on soccer, football,
Yeah.
because of our background. We have you know part of our team had a background in computer vision, finance, as in quants, and the other part was more connected to the sports world. So we obviously started there. We also realized that starting with sports was great because that's so complex, compared to other verticals, that we actually had to get a deep dive and build very very smart things. But yeah, so what we're doing with sports related entities is we're trying to bring them state of the art models. So even if they're not part of the elite clubs or the elite organizations, they can have access to state of the art AI. And the reason we're doing this on BitTensor is because it's decentralized, and because of BitTensor's you know uh, let's say incentive mechanism. We can provide them with the same tech as the top clubs or the top entities, but way cheaper. And also we can provide them like open source, an open source version of what they could be using with other companies.
Yeah, so a lot of the big, giant, well-heeled sporting entities, teams can afford like the very expensive,
Yeah,
hot, top of the line AI because of BitTensor's incentive mechanisms. The sort of Y Combinator like, but also Pump.Fun like
yeah,
contest, which is going on inside of BitTensor. All the subnets are competing with each other, and within each subnet, all the miners are competing with each other
yeah,
to get 7,200 tau per day, which is going to happen soon, but that's what it is right now. So there's a giant competition. So that sort of subsidizes all of the machine intelligence, the vision intelligence that your miners are providing you, which allows you to turn around and resell that
yeah,
to lower end. And I don't want to diminish them, but like not as well heeled sporting teams for a much lower cost, and they get the same
yeah.
product basically, right? So,
And
so
this is exactly what we announced with a club in England, a football club called Reading.
yeah,
They have a great history, one of the most famous club in the UK. But at the moment, they're level 3, because in Europe you can go down and you can go up in different, across different levels. It's not like US sports where
yeah.
that you always play in the NBA, for instance.
Oh wow,
Yeah, so that's also why it's strategic for them, because if they can access the same level of tech as top clubs, they believe that they could also go up again, and compete at a higher level. But yeah, you're right in the way you're framing this. Because of BitTensor's efficiency, let's say, we're able to provide them the same tech, state of the art, and cut the price by almost tenfold.
Wow. So it's like one tenth the cost. I was going to
Yeah,
ask you
yeah,
exactly what it,
yeah,
that's amazing.
yeah.
And that is a number we encounter a lot in BitTensor. I've noticed that number, the 1/10 number pops up quite a bit.
Yeah, yeah.
So one way to describe the value that you're providing to the clubs is it's sort of like Moneyball, right? Where sort of,
Yeah.
right, where they apply math and things like that. Now you're applying AI to what you're seeing with the players on the field. Tell me a little bit about what the AI. So the AI is sort of like a co-coach, if you will, right?
Yeah.
Like it notices which players are doing what and figures out how better to win. Can you talk a little bit about like sort of the insights it's providing?
Yeah, 100%. So if we want to keep it very high level, the subnet, so the community around Score, or the community of machine learning engineers around Score, are helping extracting data from video footage. And then on top of that, you can run different AI models to find the right information for a team to kind of understand how they should play, or maybe if they should recruit a certain type of player to kind of improve their overall performance. So the AI part is happening on both ends. On the subnet, the people that are competing are providing AI models that are very good at extracting the data. And when I say extracting the data, there's different types of data. You can extract coordinates, so to understand how things are moving around the pitch, around the pitch. You can extract events, so it's another level of understanding. In the NFL, for instance, your model could be able to understand when someone scores the touchdown, for instance, or when there's a roughing the passer. Or I'm just trying to use examples in other sports than soccer
That we dumb Americans can understand.
but it's fine.
Yeah, no,
I'm a huge
right
NFL
to.
fan, by the way. I'm a huge NFL fan. And then there's a third level, which is exciting, and the way we built the new version of our tech gets to this point, and it's very exciting. It's the reasoning part, and the reasoning part. And you mentioned Tesla, but you can also mention Nvidia. They have a model called Cosmos, and it's fascinating because based on what you provide as a video, the model can describe things as they're happening on the screen, and the model can also extract insights for coaches, for instance. So if you train something on soccer or football or baseball, whatever, at some point, as you said, you can even replace an assistant, or you can add another assistant to your team of assistants. So that's where we want to go with sports organizations. But the beautiful thing, and I said it, just in the intro, is that sports is such a complex dance that actually what we've built for sports, what we've built for sports can be applied to a lot of other verticals. So that's the reason why I'm excited to have this conversation with you today, because I think we're going to talk about way more things than just sports.
Really? Okay. Well, that's pretty exciting. So yeah, because I think basically what you're saying is that, when the computer looks at the pitch, or the football field, as it were, depending on which metaphor you understand the best. There's a bunch of blobs moving around. The computer identifies like which blob is which person. What are they doing? What does that mean within the context of the game? Did they commit a foul? Did they score a touchdown or goal? And it basically can analyze that. But then there's a further step, which is based on that information, what should the coach be telling the players to do? How should they be adjusting their style of play? How should they be correcting them? And basically then forward looking. So in football, it'd be like calling the next play, maybe, right?
Yeah.
Like this AI that's been watching the game notices a weakness in the defense on the other side and says, oh, we should exploit that by running this play. That kind of thing is sort of what you're thinking.
Exactly. And sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, I think, and sports is like one of the hardest versions of computer vision, right? So that's like the answers, like that are not in the back of the book, right? In math, remember those? Like the answers, like
Yeah.
we don't have the answers in the back of the book. So it's sort of that for
Yeah.
computer vision, right? So if you can crack this, you can crack it generally better than anyone else. So I think you were about to tell me about some of these general use cases. So let me let you have the floor.
Yeah, definitely. And to get to this point, it's very important because that's also the reason why we had to almost hit the pause button around our subnet comms in general for like 30, 40 days.
Yes.
Because we had to think about the way to build something that could scale. Because we actually realized that our research on sports could apply to many different things. But the way we were built, from a tech perspective, the way we built the subnet wasn't couldn't cope with lots of footage and other verticals come in. It was way too much built around soccer in particular. And to get to the point you mentioned, and obviously everyone wants to get to the point where they can actually literally talk to a game or talk to a video and understand, and have a level of understanding. You need to be very good at collecting the data. This is the most critical part. LLMs are very good because they have access to kind of almost like an unlimited amount of data on the internet. They can scrape websites and they can scrape pretty much whatever they want. When it comes to video, you have to find the right data to be scraped and to also get the same level of quality for the models to get better. So this is where we put our time and efforts for the last 40 days. But we also put our time and efforts into something that would also resonate with people that are not into tech that much. We also created our own process to actually manage to sell BitTensor's output to Web2 companies, very traditional companies. So we've created our own, we call it the 60-day trial pipeline. And it's working like a charm, if I'm honest with you. We have a very high conversion rate. And maybe we can expand on that. I don't know. Tell me where you want to take it.
I don't think I'm quite following this exactly. So when you say you're selling, there's like a 60-day feed of I guess video comprehensive information. Is that just for like, where's the video that you're analyzing coming from? Is that just from sports or is that coming from other domains as well?
Yeah, sorry. Let me just kind of maybe try to make it a bit clearer. So so before our big update, we were just receiving soccer videos, simple, and we were going against a very like well-known benchmark called SoccerNet. When we realized we had to kind of go and sell the same technology to several different verticals, we knew we had to have access to kind of private data for two reasons. First one was to obviously make our baseline models better, so we could be relevant from a sales perspective, and also to prepare for the next step, which would be more of a product, and we'll talk about it later on. But we had to have access to private data. So what we did, because we had this urgency of proving our point and showing that our tech could work across different verticals, we reached out to Web2 companies that we specifically targeted because we knew they were operating around primarily around video operations. We also knew that their video operations were driven by human beings. So the actual benchmark was a human operator. And we went to them and say, well, let's start a 60-day trial where you would send us your data and we would show you how this subnet could compete against your current human-centric, human-driven operations. If after those, or if within those 60 days, we beat your internal benchmark, or we make things easier for you, you would become a paid customer.
Okay.
And this is what we started to do a few weeks ago, and this is why we were able to announce this partnership with the football club you mentioned. This is why we also announced another one today. That is not sports related, and this is how we're going to bring new types of data and new tasks on the subnet that are not sports related.
Okay, so let me try to recapitulate that. So you basically said we're gonna have a new product, a new class of a new instantiation of our capability into a new product. That new product is, hey, enterprise, whatever you are out there, upload your private video data to us. Our subnet will then crunch it and analyze that video and compete against a human, basically side by side over a trial period. And if we can do as well or better than the human in our output and in terms of understanding what's in that video, then you will become a customer of ours. That's basically it. Okay, you're nodding. Okay, so because this is a question that comes up a lot. So the subnet miners, like, you don't know who they are, right? Like there's a bunch of people out there that are mining your subnet. They would ostensibly be processing this private video. Yeah. So is this inside like some sort of trusted execution environment inside the miner? Okay. Yeah. So tell me about that.
So I didn't want to start with the tech things. But now if the question is more about the tech, I can
please. Now we're there.
Yeah. So what we did, very important thing. I think we made a very important decision, and it's pretty simple. We decided to have two tracks on our subnet. The first one is a public one, completely open source, where miners are asked to process sample data. So something we can make public. And they have to upload their models on Hugging Face, and they run their inference on Shoots. So on this track, everything is, you can verify absolutely and validate everything. So you would see that we're not trying to be cute with the subnet operations. So this track is set to be to become like, from an open source perspective, this could be the next, the new SOTA from a vision perspective. So that's one thing. So we wanted to prove that everything was transparent and verifiable. On the other end, because we know that we operate with enterprise type of customers, we decided to go with a private track using TEEs on either Shoots or Targon. And in this case, as you know, no one could have access to our customers' data. They would be able to, run their task on a very safe and secured environment. Yep. The customer would keep their data and receive the output, and everything is completely secured. And this is pretty much the most important change we've made from an incentive mechanism perspective. I don't want to get too much into the details because it could, be very, boring quite quickly. Yeah. But this thing unlocked also the kind of sales cycle we initiated a few weeks ago. I don't think customers are boring. And I think one of the things customers want, right, especially enterprise customers, is safety for their data. Yeah. And I've heard that in selling to enterprises, an objection that comes up a lot with using BitTensor subnet based stuff is like, look, Max, I trust you, right? Like I can see your face. We're going to have a contract together for this product. But you have 256 miners. Like nobody knows who those people are, right? So I don't want them to have my data. So how does my data not escape to those 256 miners, right? Now you have an answer, which is a very exciting answer. So you get the best of both worlds. You get the you get the 1/10 cost of the BitTensor subnet, and yet you retain the privacy of the data, and the enterprise customer can rest secure knowing that their data is not just floating around out there in space. So I think that's very exciting. So congratulations on that. Appreciate this. And so far across a lot of different conversation with customers, we have 100% conversion rate on the trial period.
Wow. Well, congratulations. Is that your big news? Because I knew you had some big news, right? So
no, that's not the big news. I've kept some alpha for you today.
Oh, you have. Let you have the floor. Now is the time. Please tell us the secret. We like alpha.
No, so just to kind of wrap it up. So we have a 60-day pipeline, process working really well. We have two different sales team. One is focused on sports because of our, that's our DNA. And we have a team that is focused on non-sports related. And the very first non-sports related customer we have, I can't name them because there's a press release going out next week. We're talking on a Thursday, and this is going to be out on a Tuesday. But we've signed an agreement with one of the largest European petroleum company. So we would apply our models within their gas station camera setups, networks, and we would help them literally watch what's happening around the stations and make sure to create like an alert system for them to operate their automated gas stations.
Wow.
And for us, this is big because in Europe, we're talking about thousands of automated gas stations. And obviously across the world, there's way more. But that was the big news for us today. Even if, with the first announcement we did, it was like in twofold. We had a performance part and also a way to help them operate sports stadium, leveraging video and vision intelligence. This time, this is the first time we're not doing anything, sports related. And so for us, it's huge. So that's the big news. I mean, as at least for me, that's the big news.
No, I think that's huge. This is I love that you're branching out outside of sports into a new market segment. And yeah, I actually saw you tweet this morning a picture of basically, cars filling up their gas at a gas station.
Yeah.
And they're like little boxes around them where clearly the AI has figured out, oh, this is a human. Oh, this is a car. Yeah. Oh, this is a gas pump. Right. And it just sort of, it knows what's going on at the gas station. So, okay. So,
yeah. So the use case is crazy. I mean, I didn't know like the amount of people that are putting the pistol, pouring gas, and then just drive away.
Oh, without paying, or like
without paying, drive away without paying completely. Destroying everything, and the crazy thing is, if we go back to, could score help there, leveraging vision intelligence, when a petroleum company when they have a problem on a gas station, on an automated gas station, the average resolution time is in hours, between 8 and 24 hours.
Wow.
I mean, if AI can't help there,
yeah,
I don't know what's going to be helpful.
I mean, at an automated gas station, don't you have to pay first? Like, how do I?
Yeah, sometimes you have to pay first, but sometimes there's some very specific cases, and we have a long list of things that can happen. I can't disclose the whole list.
Okay, got it.
But,
so there are scenarios.
This one was the funniest. This one was the funniest example. But yeah. Sometimes it's just literally people driving into the bay, and that's crazy. There's a lot of crazy things happening.
There's a lot of crazy people out there. So this is anti-crazy technology. So which I think the world needs more of that. So I'm glad you're on the job, sir. Okay, so tell me a little bit about your token, the Subnet 44 token.
Yep. And
tell me, this is all very exciting, and this sounds like a lot of revenue for you. How does this translate to token holders, and how are you handling the new Tau flow mechanics? Let's talk about that side of your universe.
Yeah, sure. So we're in a enterprise type of sales cycle, and we managed to kind of shorten things around the 60-day trial phase. So every time we work with a client, we have this 60-day, and then they turn into paid customers, and then they pay on a monthly basis. We are going to use like a large chunk of this revenue to bring value straight back to the subnet. So this is critical. And obviously buyback and burn are, that's a solution, but we're working on a very specific version of our own alphanomics. It's not.
Oh, you're using Mog's word. I like that. Okay.
I'm a Mog's fan.
Yes, me too. Me too.
Yeah. So I think he was right by bringing this new terminology. So I'm stealing it for sure. And we will be talking about it a bit later on. But just to give you a hint, we think that we should study a bit more all the deep-in protocols. And we think that anyone that would interact, so when I say anyone, could be a miner trying to get paid from emissions, or a customer, a client paying the subnet, or even a token holder wanting to move from alpha to, I don't know, shares, for instance. We think that every time someone goes in or goes out, we have to show how we capture the value and how we also get the value out of the subnet. And I think it should be way more granular than what it is right now. But we'll talk about it maybe on another episode, because I want to comment something. Yeah, that's to come. On the reality of things, we had a first. So we haven't announced it yet, but we had a first 60-day trial that converted into a paid customer, and they're going to pay starting in December. So the first invoice goes out at the end of this month and going to be paid in December. And then in Jan, we had like 2 or 3 other 60-day trials that are going to, highly likely convert. And we're going to add them up and add them up and add them up and add them up. And every time we'll use the revenue to process with buybacks. So that's one of the most important things I wanted to share here today. And then, because I know that people are also seeking for something that is a bit more high frequency than an enterprise, kind of monthly payment.
Yeah.
Then I want everyone to kind of keep in mind that this enterprise cycle is meant to train models. So then we can have our own self-service platform, API based.
Okay. So basically down the road, just come, show up at your site. You don't have to, it's not like a long cycle salesperson holding your hand kind of thing. It just show up, swipe your credit card, you're up and running. You don't have to even talk to us, like AWS or something like that. Yeah.
The journey for us is pretty clear. I mean, the go-to-market is honestly super clear. So we have the 60-day trials, and then also dropping a bit of alpha here. And honestly, I would be more than happy to share the blueprint with other subnets, because it works really well with enterprise type of customers. 60-day trial, within the agreement, they sign on the fact that they go on, on a paid subscription if we do better than what they do currently. But also, all of them, and this is very important, all of them are telling us, when we get to the point where we have, let's say, our own model or something that is working for us, we want to help you score to distribute the model within our industry. So if we take, for instance, the football club, we have on a signed agreement, them saying, when we get to the point where the product works good enough, well enough for us, we will help you sell the product to other clubs, maybe at lower levels. But we are also kind of exiting, this phase with the help of our clients about, just being like very, focused on finding one customer and something like that is really not scalable, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that does make sense. So who else? I'm curious. Like, who else is out there for computer vision? If you're basically offering this at 1/10 the price of everyone else, which I think a lot of enterprise customers are probably like, holy crap, this is.
Yeah.
If they're comparing bids, right? They're like, oh, how are these guys doing this so inexpensively? I don't want to say cheaply, inexpensively.
Inexpensively.
Right? Yes.
Yeah.
So, but there are other computer vision people out there. What is it? Who are they, and what is it like competing against them? And is the quality the same?
Yeah. So from a quality perspective, and by the way, this is how the subnet is built. The best thing you would find are big AI companies, VLMs, vision language models.
Yep.
This is pretty much our biggest competitors. But the good thing for us is they're very generic, and they're also heavy. They cost a lot of money, and they're slow. They're really, really slow. So most of the time, we're not competing against another company, like another version of Score. We're not competing against that. We need to be an alternative for devs when they need to add computer vision to their stack. And at the moment, what they do is they go on ChatGPT, they drop a video on ChatGPT or Claude, and they expect the LLM to tell them what to do or how to implement.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that's what
and some of them are using other companies like RoboFlow, for instance, but it's very, intense. It's a heavy lift for devs at the moment. And I'm just throwing this because I think it sounds good. We actually hired someone from Tesla. I mean, our latest vision AI researcher was working at Tesla before, and he told us that all the people he talked to in manufacturing and also all the devs he knows around, big brands, they all got to the same point, dropping a video on ChatGPT and trying to get the right information from the LLM. Yeah.
So that's the state of the art right now, is just dropping the video in and trying to.
Yeah.
And how good does ChatGPT, or I guess Grok, do with that? I would imagine it's nowhere near what you're doing. But tell me.
So the difference is they're really good. If you just drop them like one picture, one frame,
yep,
they would be sort of good. They would tell you where things are, and if they've been trained on manufacturing, for instance, like Cosmos from NVIDIA, they would be sort of good. But the real need, and that's also the reason why we went with our 60-day thing, is to get to good general purpose vision model. Now, what you need to do is you need to have a lot of different expert models lined up before. And if you flip the problem, instead of trying to kind of train like a large model across a lot of different verticals, I mean, this is the way we want to do it anyway. We're going to start with use cases, and then we're going to make it accessible to anyone. So it looks like a general purpose model, but actually it's just a combination of a lot of different expert models.
Yeah, it's like I've been hearing this theme a lot, that the way to sort of do AI in general is to not do it in general, but to have lots of experts, lots of little, right? That's sort of are a library of agents that are specialized. So the sports video, interpretation library, for example, or the gas station expert. Like I know what a gas pump is. I know what a car is, right? I know what a human is. I know what it looks like when they're putting the pump in their car or back on the rack. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, and that lines up with a lot of other things I've been hearing. Let's talk a little bit about your competition. I know your minor competition and your incentive mechanism. I know I said I didn't want to do inside baseball, but let's do a little inside baseball for the people out there. What does the contest, or the minor contest, what does that look like, and are you burning minor emissions? What is that, and if so, what does that look like? And have you made any changes since TauFlow was announced to your competition? Because I'm hearing that a lot of, here's where I'm going with this. I'm hearing that a lot of subnets are burning 100% or somewhere near 100% of their minor emissions because they don't want their miners selling, because that impacts TauFlow, which decreases emissions, which means miners drop out and their subnet, it's sort of like this spiral. They don't want to start the spiral of bad things happening, right?
Yeah.
So what are you doing, and how do you look at that?
So the way we look at it is I think we can't blame subnet owners to kind of find a way to, survive within our space. So I think fair enough. I think it's just a bit short term, but we might end up having to adapt the burn. At the moment, we're not burning anything. The reason we're not burning anything is because it's crucial for us to keep having data annotated, because of the 60-day trial phases I mentioned. So at the moment, if we had to take the emissions down, and let's say we would not get the best model out there, we would also not provide value to our custom clients. So this is the reason why we kept it open. I think at some point, my biggest conviction in this space, and I'm going to talk a bit like alphanomics now, is I think that the only reason for the emissions to be open, like to go from 100% being burned to, let's say, 10% not being burned, is when revenue hits the door. So in my dreams, I would build something, and I'm working on it with our team and obviously with my co-founder and CTO, Tim, who's doing an amazing job. We're working on creating something that ties the amount of emissions that we're burning to the actual revenue that comes in. So if we get $1,000, we're going to open the emissions for $1,000. And miners then will have the choice to get either $1,000, in from the customer's money in dollars, so that they wouldn't get any SN44. They would have to burn the SN44 to get $1,000, or they would be able to keep, I don't know, 750 in SN44, and they would cash out 250 in US dollars. And I think this is how I see things moving forward, is actually showing everything on chain. And if dollars hit the account, then you open the emissions, and then you pay people with the emissions. But you don't just keep using the subnet for just research purposes. But I'm not throwing shades at subnets that are doing research. I'm saying if you're not that type of subnet, maybe you should tie everything around revenue. This is what I'm saying.
Yeah. So, I mean, I love that, by the way. So thank you for that insight. So your response to Talflow is nothing, because you're basically like, look, we have to pay our miners. We have to keep them motivated because our miners, our subnet is extremely valuable. And we have enterprise customers that are using it actively, and we want to convince them that it's extremely valuable. So we want everybody motivated. We're not going to cut anybody's miner emissions. We need the miners happy. And so you're like, well, maybe now your miners probably, some of them have to sell your subnet token right now to cover their costs, right? Because I assume most of these people have hard costs that they have to cover. So you're just like, well, whatever it's going to do, whatever's going to happen is going to happen. Not going to worry about it right now because we're skating over here. We're heading towards revenue.
Yeah. And it's like a maximalist type of approach. So if we're good enough with the output, then we should be good enough to sell the output to someone with a margin.
Yeah.
And then we make everything, fit together.
Yeah, and then you brought up an interesting point. This is one. There's sort of two big points that I've been sort of wrestling with in my own head. One is Talflow would seem to hit subnets that where the miners have hard costs disproportionately. So Shoots and Targon, for example. Those miners are providing inference. I think they're the highest. I think they have the highest hard costs. I'm just guessing, but my guess is that's true. And so those people, they have to, those miners, just like Bitcoin miners, right? They have to sell some portion of what they mine in order to pay for the electricity and the rack space and the GPU burn from the last month, right? So they're forced to sell, which selling reduces Tal flow scores, which reduces emissions. And right, so at a certain point, if you're a miner, you're like, well, I'm not making anything, so why am I still mining this thing? So I don't know if that's the right way to think about it, and I don't want to say the wrong thing, but that's what it looks like on the surface to me. The answer I've been hearing from others, and I've been listening to All Teacher, and actually JJ spoke about this on Taupod 2 days ago, and the answer seems to be, well, there'll be some new thinking and some new first principles applied to this problem. And somehow it'll get solved because the competition will, evolution will force an innovation to pop up out of the pavement, which maybe that's the right answer. And that's probably what we're trying to incentivize here. So there's that. And then the other problem I've been thinking about is research subnets versus revenue subnets, right? The revenue subnets and where they have hard costs would seem to be hurt the most by Talflow. The research subnets hurt the least, I think, because there's more speculation. It's sort of like in Silicon Valley, the television show, where they're like, don't make revenue, because once you make revenue, there's a yardstick you're measured against, right, for your valuation. Whereas if you're just sort of like, we're inventing the greatest thing ever, then people buy into the moonshot vision, right? And so therefore they're like, it's a large valuation, which arguably is sort of what ChatGPT or OpenAI is sort of doing, right? And Elon sort of does this with his companies. Uber sort of did it, arguably, right? Because they were not, their costs were greater than what they were charging, right? So they were subsidized by investment for, roughly a decade. So I don't know. How do you think about all of that? And what do you think about the research subnets versus the revenue subnets? Is my biggest question.
That's a really good question. I think we should make a difference between even calling a subnet a revenue subnet, I think has to be defined, because I think at the moment there's some subnets that are generating revenue, but most of subnets, maybe have a good go-to-market strategy right now.
Yeah.
And I think people are happy to know that there's a good go-to-market strategy. So I think before really being able to call them revenue subnets. I think people would need to keep supporting them for at least a few months still. But research subnets, I don't know how things are going to move forward. I don't know if there's going to be some sort of market consolidation around different teams working together after this new change, or I don't know. But what I think is, as an ecosystem, I think we should make sure they stick around.
I agree with that. Totally agree.
I think we
with
should
that.
make sure to keep vouching for them, share their breakthrough, try to also not just preaching for our own chapel, just also help other subnets that maybe are more of it. I'm thinking about Nova, for instance.
Yes.
Nova could be immense.
It could be, yes, totally.
And if you read about Nova the same way you try to read about Score, I think you're making a huge mistake, because Score can end up being a billion-dollar company. This is why this is what keeps up at night. At night we want to build like a multi-billion-dollar company, but our go-to-market strategy is just different. Nova can find one, molecule that would change the world, like literally.
Yes,
but it takes time. It takes time and it takes support. So I think it's also very important for us as stakeholders of this ecosystem to educate. You can be harsh with me on my go-to-market strategy because I'm just showing my face, telling you I've cracked the code. I know how to sell. I know how to sell my thing. It's fine. I'll take it on the chin. But if you go to Moonshot and say when revenue, I think you're being unfair to the subnet.
Yeah, no, I agree, and I hear this from Sam Dare too. Sam is pretty vocal about don't say when revenue to me, peasant. I'm doing fairly. I'm not I'm not ripping on him, but he's sort of like, look, I'm working on decentralized Colossus. It's really hard, but if I succeed, then we don't need these centralized entities to produce the frontier models. And he's right, and it could be the biggest subnet of all eventually. Yeah. Depending on, but it's going to take some time for him to get there. I mean, my own personal opinion on this is that the reason why, if you look at the equity world, the reason why people, like Masayoshi Son fund these big moonshot visions is because there's a history in the past of, some of them actually got to revenue and produced giant valuations that were sustainable through revenue, right? So, whereas we've not yet seen that happen in the BitTensor universe, right? None of the subnets have crossed the chasm yet. We have really great early signal that a couple of them will soon, but we don't really know that, and it hasn't been proven yet. And my own personal opinion is that once one or two or three do cross the chasm and become $1 billion plus subnets and have lots of customers. Lots of revenue that's increasing and increasing and increasing. That will supply the proof point, which will then fund the speculation in the research subnet. So I think it's sort of like a two-stage rocket kind of thing, right? So, I think right now, collectively, the task at hand for BitTensor as a whole is to get our first 3 to 5 revenue subnets really strong and out the door, and chunking along and getting a lot of attention. And that's kind of how I see it. I think Hippias could be one.
Totally agree.
We talked about Mog earlier, right? So I think Hippias is a really clearly defined vision, and I think the alphanomics are beautifully designed. And by the way, is Mog like an investor or a participant? Yeah, he is, right?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, he started as just an advisor, and he was super helpful in the early days. And then he met with the team, and we just thought that it was such a great fit. That he's decided to back us, and I'm very grateful for that.
That's fantastic. Yeah, no, I'm a big fan of what he's done with Hippias and Video. I don't know how to pronounce that.
I don't know how to pronounce it.
Video is how I pronounce it. So, but yeah, big fan of what he's done with both of those subnets, and just in general, right? Like Tau Stats has been invaluable.
That's true.
There've been multiple times where I'm taustats.io for those who are curious. There've been multiple times where I've been using other offerings, which I also like, and they're better at other things. But invariably, I find myself looking for some piece of information which is only findable on Taustats or some bit of utility, right? So, and Mog and crew have been 3 steps ahead of me. Like, you're going to want this, and I'm like, and eventually I get there, and I'm like, oh, Mog has got me covered once again. So. Have to praise where praise is due. Okay, so we're sort of coming up on the hour here. Is there anything I should have asked that I haven't asked? Or anything else you want to talk about?
No, I think that was a great kind of high level update on what scores, what we're doing right now. We're keeping the same name because actually, and it's funny, we're actually scoring movement. So we're going to keep the name. Score is great. And I wanted to be on your podcast first because I knew you would talk about things for people that are not in the locker room, in the baseball locker room, as you said, to also get a better understanding of what we're trying to get across the line. So, no, I really appreciate you giving us this opportunity.
Well, thank you, and it's always great to see you. I'm a big fan of what you're up to. I'm a big fan of how you're managing your subnet and your business. So, I love having entrepreneurs like you in the BitTensor ecosystem. So, gives me hope that we're going to make it. So,
appreciate it. Thanks for that.
Okay. All right, everybody. My name is Mark Jeffrey. This has been Hash Rate. We'll see you all next time.